My guest today has had an incredible journey. It started out in Birmingham, Alabama, via Barringer High School in Newark, New Jersey, and then of all places, Andre Tippett heads to Iowa, to Ellsworth Community College in Iowa Falls, then to the University of Iowa, and then back to the East Coast to become the stud that he was at outside linebacker with the New England Patriots. And when he finally decided, that was enough, of course, he's got a bus that lasts 40,000 years in Canton, Ohio. Andre, what a ride you've had, brother. What a ride.
Oh man, it has been unreal, man. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, and it's been crazy. Um, you know, you can label all that under trust the process, and I truly trusted the process. Given the situation that I was in, me personally, I tell the story all the time, and people are like, there's no way you went from here to there. You couldn't have grown up there, and I have, and I've experienced a lot, and I tell you, I wouldn't change anything if I had to do it all over again. Because as you look back now, man, it was a blessing for me.
It sounds to me, and I've spent a lot of time with you, and we've had great conversations in the back of the bus at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, going from events to events, and some of my most cherished times, actually. I really enjoy a conversation with you, and I just enjoy our friendship more than anything, and the depth of the conversation and the fun. We just
Absolutely.
we have a good time. Explain to me and explain to the listeners what you mean by trusting the process, because of course we all want to get, we all want to hoist the Lombardi trophy, we all want to be all pros, but there's more to it than that, isn't there?
Absolutely. I would have loved to have signed right away at the University of Iowa coming out of high school. Well, as we tell our children now, as we look back, you know, be a good student, work hard. We talk to young student athletes that we know. Hey, you want an opportunity to get to the next level? Well, here's what you got to do. Not only be a great player, but you also got to be a good person. You also got to be a great student. You got to make academics as important as your training, get ready for a season. So we've all been there. So I know I know you have. I talk from experience, the importance of getting your education, having everything together, because when they come knocking on the door, you don't have to start shuffling for stuff to make sure everything is in order. In my case, 1978, my stuff wasn't together. It was like I realized I had an opportunity to play at the next level. My grades were not where they should have been, but yet and still, no one gave up on me. They all huddled together. They all talked to me and said, hey, here's our plan, Andre. You can go to junior college for a year, hit the books, still transfer. The scholarship is going to be there for you. But you're going to have an opportunity to play. You're going to have an opportunity to get the grades right. I did all that. I did it in a year where they were trying to keep me there for 2 years. And you should have seen me freaking out when I heard that they were trying to do that. So I worked extra hard. I think I had like 3 tutors that were tutoring me in classes and different things like that. But I put my nose to the grind more, and I got out of there. And so I was a year late getting to the University of Iowa, where all the guys that had gotten recruited with me a year before were already there. So again, when we talk about the process, that's part of that process. And I was delayed a little bit, but I wasn't denied. And it happens everywhere. You get guys that get drafted, they're at the pro level, and these guys right away, they want to start. They want to make a difference. They want to run for 50 touchdowns. They want to have 20 sacks in their rookie year. And they realize when they get to the next level that, well, you're not playing against the University of Iowa. You're not playing against the University of Michigan State. You're playing from somebody that's just as bad as you are and has been around for a little bit longer. And they got 5 kids at home and some mortgage payments and stuff like that. So you ain't gonna be getting around the corner on them as an edge rusher as fast as you think. So you're gonna have to pay your dues and get a little bit stronger and work the technique and learn from your position coach. And again, we walk the walk and we talk the talk because we've been there. You can talk about it. I talk about it. I never miss an opportunity to speak to a young man or young lady about, hey, don't ever get your head down. Don't ever say it's not possible. Anything is possible if you're willing to put in the work, grind a little bit harder. And again, I didn't grow up with any real means. I mean, we were so damn poor, we didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And so, my things that were in front of me wasn't always as positive as they are now. So I had to pretty much stick to what I wanted to do, what I wanted to become. Part of my passion was the game. After I realized I could play it, and after I realized I could get an education, free education for it, I really ratcheted up a little bit.
It sounds to me like that JUCO year was really a very defining moment in your life. Humbling, yet a vehicle for clarification in your life where you decided to, like you just said, turn it up a notch and really become a more not only a more intense human being, but a more intense student athlete, where you realize that if JUCO doesn't happen the way everybody said it was going to happen for me, and the way you had decided it was going to happen for you, then the alternative's not real good, because you did that already, and you pretty much described don't want to go there again, right?
Absolutely. Well, you hit it right on the head. I can remember calling home probably about mid-season at JUCO, talking to my high school coach. And I remember telling him that, I don't know if I can hang out here. I mean, it's really tough, coming from the East Coast and being out here in the Midwest, and I don't understand these people. I don't trust them. And I really want to come home. And, he said something to me that kind of chilled me right on out. And as I'm talking to him, he says, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to come home. Maybe you can help me get into school somewhere else. He said, wait a minute. He said, I've helped you get into school. We've talked about this. I said, well, maybe I can get into Rutgers or somewhere. He says, I can't help you any more than I've already helped you. He says, here's what I can do for you. I got some friends down at Newark Sanitation Department. I can put your name in the book. And so when you come home, you'll have that opportunity. So it didn't hit. It kind of was a slow delay reaction when I'm like, wait a minute, did he just say sanitation department? Nothing wrong with sanitation workers. I mean, I got a family full of sanitation workers that have made a great living and raised their families off of that job. But as a young 18-year-old man that's trying to become all that he can become, hearing that kind of chilled me right on out. And I thought about it for a quick second. I say, hey, Coach, tell the missus I love her and I love you, and you have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. And that was the end of my.
I will never call you again and complain about anything.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward, and you look forward,
Yeah, absolutely.
So the high school coach had to be a huge influence on you. I mean, the guy, because we all have guys or ladies for that matter in our life that have, when you look back, you say, that person made a difference. It was my high school coach too. If he hadn't introduced me to football, I'm not playing football, right. My senior year in high school. So it sounds to me like he was the guy that kind of clarified everything for you.
I was very fortunate, as you said. Your experiences and mine are similar. That if it's not for my high school coach, I don't think I'd be here today, and I don't think we'd be having this conversation. He was a very good disciplinarian. He was a guy that you could talk to whenever you needed to talk to someone to kind of set you straight. And, there were a lot of things that were going on in my life at that time. And if you don't have someone giving you that direction, my mom raised 7 of us. I'm the oldest in the family.
Mm.
And,
Mm.
I'm trying not to be a hindrance to her, but I'm trying to be a man. I'm trying to do all the right things, but I don't really have any role model, anybody to kind of learn from. And he became that when I went to high school. It took a while, and it took some trickiness also for things to work out the way it did, because I ended up going to a high school I wasn't supposed to go to.
Okay.
The reason why I went to that high school, I was avoiding these cats that had been trying to shake me down and intimidate me through the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I'm trying to maneuver that, not going to West Side High School, which was the high school that was literally around the corner. But we had friends of the family at the high school that I eventually ended up going to. They let us use their address, and I enrolled, and everything else is like a dream, because I ended up going to the better high school. I went to the more athletic high school. I avoided the bully syndrome. I got someone who cared about me, who gave a shit about me, who wasn't afraid to say, "Hey, you're wrong. You need to clean your act up, or you're going to end up somewhere where you don't want to be." And Frank Ferducci, my high school coach, was that person. And so I never missed an opportunity to tell that story, share that story. I to this day, I can't stand bullies, and I hate bullies. And I have talked to so many kids that have been in situations and shared my story, and they kind of look at me like, "Yeah, sure, you've been bullied before. You don't look like the I got bullied type." And I tell them, I say, bullying comes in all forms, shapes, and fashions. And my thing was, not that I was afraid of the person that was pushing the envelope. It was the people that were around him that, had we both went to throw hands, I could guarantee you that the 3 other guys were going to jump me. And I just didn't want to put up with that situation. I didn't want to put myself in that situation. And these guys were just guys that they didn't have anything else better to do than to pick on the biggest guy that was in the room, and stay after him. And that's what they did. And I got pretty good at avoiding these guys, and changing up my routine of where I go, and which way I came into a room. And it was phenomenal when I when I think back on it.
Was the bullying part, was that an impetus for you to become a black belt?
Yes, it was. It was. That was the other piece. I didn't. Being the oldest in the family, so I didn't have that big brother. I'm gonna go get my big brother to help me out. It was like, all right, dude, we got to figure out a way to nip this thing in the bud, or even the playing field. And I knew of some buddies that had been training in the martial arts. We had that same friend of the family was a black belt in the martial arts. Happened to be at their house one day. I see these karate trophies hanging up on the shelf, and I'm mesmerized by it. And lo and behold, I have a conversation, and next thing I'm 12, 13 years old, and I'm enrolled. Now, I'm not Bruce Lee or Jim Kelly or any of these guys, these great martial artists, but I'm on my way to becoming confident in the fact that I can learn how to avoid things, and put myself, get myself out of harm's way. But it was something that I took on very seriously. It wasn't just dabbling in the martial arts. It was something that needed to be done, and it helped me from a mental standpoint, getting through those years of being chased around.
And a confidence standpoint, and whether that's an effect. I mean, black belt's obviously an effective way of diffusing and defending. We do all we have to do is ask Rich Camarillo and Tony Franklin about that.
Wow. Yeah, that was interesting night. Oh, goodness. I got people still talking about that.
Well, Rich Camarillo shared that story with me. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up, not to embarrass you at all. But it sounds like whatever disagreements happened that evening was solidly put to rest.
Yeah, it was. It was, it was one of those life lessons that you share with people, and you tell people, you got to know your limitations with alcohol. I used to, Coach McPherson.
Well, we might as well tell the story, Andre. It's not like it hasn't been told before.
Yeah, it was my two teammates had being kickers. They
yes, I'm surprised you want to hang with me.
They didn't have really. They didn't have as many meetings as we did, and a lot of their stuff was done on the field, and those guys got a chance to get out of meetings early. And it just happened to be that one day that they got out a little early, felt pretty good about themselves, and I believe they wanted to tie one on. And it was funny. I can remember it like it was yesterday because I walked into the saloon that we all hang out at, and there were like 6 or 7 martini glasses in front of each person. And I remember counting and looking. I'm like, oh man, these guys are just out there. And I just like, wow. I said, okay. Didn't think much of it. I sat next to them, and we got to talking. And the more I was focusing on them, the more I realized that these guys were like 2 shades into the wind, and I had to figure out a way how to get away from these guys. These guys were having a good time, and without saying exactly what got said, but one thing led to another. Someone said something that they shouldn't have said to me, and I took offense to it. I was getting ready to get up, and as I was getting ready to get up, one of them reached over and slapped me in the face. And I stopped and I looked, and I'm like, no, he just didn't do that. And
oh my God.
And I looked again, and the next thing you know, he went to reach, and I threw a couple of punches. A couple of guys ducked. One person got hit. Next thing you know, I'm walking around training camp until about 3 in the morning because I'm trying to find these two. I'm trying to get to the bottom of why they would say the things that they said to me and why they would put themselves in that situation. I had coaches, I had teammates. They walked with me. I swear it had to go until probably 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, granted, we had 11 o'clock curfew. We were still in the middle of training camp, and I am hot. I am so hopped up. I couldn't even talk right. And but eventually, it ended, and one guy got traded, the other guy got cut, and everything else is history.
Yeah. Well, it was handled, and I think they both regret whatever was said and whatever was done that evening. I know that Rich will definitely have had conversation with Camarillo about that, so I know he regrets it. But hey, sometimes lessons have to be taught forcefully.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, and I'm sorry they put you through that. Did you feel like going through JUCO? And let me take you to Iowa now. We're getting into that D1 level from JUCO. Did you have a chip on your shoulders when you came off of the JUCO experience?
Absolutely.
And that motivated you, yeah?
I wanted to factor in. I wanted to start. I wanted to be part of defense, be part of that university as soon as I could. It's funny. I really I had goals. There are things that I saw growing up. And then when I saw these opportunities coming together, it's like when I go to college, I want to be able to start, to compete right away. I want to be a 4-year starter. Well, okay, now I got to go to JUCO. Now I got to work. I want to be a 3-year starter. So part of that chip on my shoulder is I want to be, the very best guy that ever came through the university. Um, I want to be All-American. I want to make all Big Ten. I mean, all of this stuff, because this is what me watching Thanksgiving Day games of Michigan, Ohio State playing, USC, Nebraska, all these guys, and I've seen all these guys play. So I equated all of that stuff when you saw them showing the faces of the players that were making plays. And under there was their name and where they were from and all Big Ten and all. I thought that was cool as hell. I mean, I was like, one of these days, they're going to be saying Andre Tippett, University of Iowa, all Big Ten, all American. And, and it was just the visuals, man, because it was like, yeah, I've made it. Now, how do you get there? How do you do that? I figured out right away, look, you got to try not to get hurt. When the opportunity comes, you got to be ready to play. You can't screw up the defenses. And, there were so many other things that were there that could interfere or delay you, but you don't know that until you get there, until you're in the situation. And, but yes, chip on my shoulder. I want to play right away. I can play this game. I'm not afraid to get out there and do my thing.
How do you think D1 programs and NFL teams maybe can do a better job? You're in the front office now. How can they do a better job of finding players like you and giving them a chance to make it? Because let's face it, if you're not a D1 prospect, I mean, I know that the NFL's scouting web is widespread, but there are a lot of golden nuggets, man, that are being passed by because they're not in front of us.
Yeah, it's funny. It seems like the job gets harder and harder. It's like, how do you find, you need 2 outside linebackers. How do you find those guys? Or you're running a 3-4 defense, so now you got to find 2 good outside linebackers, 2 inside linebackers, plus the backups. How do you find those guys? And it's more than just looking at the tape. I think it takes going to that university. I think it takes standing out on that field, watching a practice, watching those particular players move around and touch people and grab people. And I think it takes trusting recommendations from folks that are either the high school coach or people that are alumni in the area. I mean, it takes a whole lot of things that you put in place as a personnel person or a scout or a guy that knows a little bit about the game. You kind of got to go out and watch and eyeball and get hands-on experience. And that's any position. And I think the people that played that position and played it well kind of have a little bit better feel. I know the importance of playing outside linebacker, that the guy has to have active hands. The guy has to have fast feet. The guy has to be able to move laterally with smoothness. Guy got to be able to rush or drop, maybe a little man coverage from time to time. So you're looking at someone that's a well-rounded athlete, and then you got to trust the fact that this guy is tough enough. A lot of guys can talk it, but there's a difference when you get out there and you watch a guy, you've seen a guy in the fourth quarter where it's 6-3, and you got to stop these guys so you can give the opportunity for your offense to get back out on the field. And you know that there's a good chance that they're going to run at you. What do? Do you step up, take on that responsibility, or do you cower? There's a lot of people out there. We see all sorts. Ones that walk the walk and some that don't walk the walk.
Yeah. Kevin Green told us that when he was being brought into the league, everyone was looking for that next 3-4 linebacker. And he mentioned Lawrence Taylor and he mentioned you, Andre, as the guys that teams were looking to emulate. What do you think about that when you hear that from our late great friend Kevin Green, and how does it feel to be one of the guys who's credited with revolutionizing the way teams built defenses?
Well, one, I'm very honored and humbled. All I ever wanted out of the National Football League is to be respected for the things that I've done. I wish I'd have had more time to do it, but I really, really tried to do it the right way. I was very fortunate to be around some very good coaches defensively that afforded me that opportunity. And I think we all emulated each other in some way. Some may say, no, that's not true, but I call bullshit on it because I knew how great Hollywood Henderson was. I knew what kind of guy Jack Ham was. I studied and watched Jack Ham. I watched L.C. Greenwood. I watched, Dean out at different guys, Youngblood. I watched sitting up on Sunday, watching football, watching these guys play, seeing that, I might be able to play outside linebacker. I might be able to do it. And I remember at the combine, and you remember this too, Mort. We had 3 combines, remember? We had the one in Tampa and Dallas and Detroit.
Indianapolis, Detroit, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the Pittsburgh Steelers scout coming up to me and says, L.C. Greenwood is getting ready to retire, and we really want to draft you, but we won't draft you unless we know that you want to play defensive end. And I remember looking at this guy and saying, look, man, I'm not no defensive end. I'm an outside linebacker, and I don't see myself putting on – at the time, I was 230, 235. L.C. Greenwood was probably 265, 270. So I'm right away, he says that to me. I said, so you expected me to somehow find, all this extra baggage to get out there and line? I said, man, ain't no way hell I'm going to line up against these offensive tackles and guards. So in my mind, I'm like, nah, as much as I wanted to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Raiders at the time, those were the top teams. I said, nah, bro, I'm good. I said, I'm gonna take my chances playing outside linebacker, and I found it to be funny.
It's very apropos because when I talked to Kevin about a month ago, he was asked to play defensive end with the Rams for a year under Fisher. A horrible experiment that went wrong because he was clearly an outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense.
Absolutely, he was.
And so the smart people put him right back there, and that's become the sack master. I mean,
those are the great coaches. Hey, they did the same thing with Vrabel. Vrabel, when he was at Pittsburgh, they had him messing around at defensive end, and then they realized, this guy is a little bit more than that. And you hear those stories all the time, and it all depends on where you go. My life could have changed had I went to a team that played a 4-3 defense.
Oh yeah.
And wanted me to be this or that. And I'm like, I can't, I don't know how to play that position. So it was eye-opening for me.
Who do you think in your mind is the best 3-4 linebacker in the game today, Andre?
Wow. It's funny. Obviously, Von Miller. Trying to think, those 2 defensive ends at the Redskins, I'm drawing a blank on their names. 90 and I think 91. The 2 starting defensive ends. Those guys, I could easily see those kids in a 3-4 defense playing left and right backers. They could probably do that without even thinking about it. And I watch these kids move around. They obviously know how to get after the quarterback, and I think it would be easy transition to do it. But not everybody can play in a 3-4 defense. But I know Von Miller without even thinking about it. You could put Von Miller at that weak side and just let him just go, do what he want to do. Get you a guy that could ride the tight end on the other side and just hold the run, stretch the run out until the defense catches up. Without a doubt.
How surreal was it in 1981? You're standing in the Rose Bowl with Iowa. Your JUCO transfer. You've been at Iowa now for a little bit, and here you are in the Rose Bowl with a legendary coach, Hayden Fry, and you must have pinched yourself and go, "Man, this this ride is working out beautifully right now."
I can't say it enough. I mean, I told someone 2 years before that I'm going to get an opportunity to play in the Rose Bowl. And they kind of looked at me like, yeah, whatever, dude. It was the coolest moment. It was everything that we had been talking about. Everything that we were trying to do at Iowa with the leadership of Hayden Fry all came together. And to be out in Pasadena, California, for a lot of us who've never traveled that far, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, man. I mean, it was at the time, the granddaddy of them all. And you and I know, the Rose Bowl. It's not like it was in our day. It was special. It was to get there, you had to be Big Ten representative and Pac-12 representative. And those were the only two people that played it.
That's it.
And it was like the last big bowl game of the year. And it was awesome, man. I had to pinch myself for that week that I was there playing in the Rose Bowl out in Pasadena, the granddaddy of them all.
And you're one of the top linebackers in 1982. I'm sitting waiting to get drafted in 1982. You're sitting there in April of 82 waiting to get drafted. And you go in the second round. I actually go third pick in the fourth round. Same draft, Andre, you and I.
Right.
I didn't realize until I started doing a little research on you. Any idea that you were going to end up in New England? And they weren't great back then. I mean, but that dynasty was, and we'll get to that in a second. Any idea that you were going to be part of?
No idea at all. It really wasn't. And, my conversations were always around Dallas Cowboys, the Oakland Raiders, Pittsburgh Steelers. Because, again, people say, well, why them? I said, because those were the winning franchises back in the day. Those were the teams that you saw on Sunday in late December in the playoffs. And your Ed Too Tall Jones, your Jack Green, it was Joe Green, Staubach, all of those guys, and that's what we grew up on. I was thinking one of those three teams. I was so confident that I was gonna go to the Raiders. I went out and bought a silver and black 280ZX. I put it on hold. I didn't pay for it. I didn't walk out the dealership until after I got drafted. I said, I'm going to be Oakland Raider. I'm going to get my silver and black 280ZX and have it ready.
How the hell can you fit into a ZX, bro? I mean,
well, I had a 2+2, so I pushed it back.
I got you. But it's so interesting. You're mentioning those three franchises because I had more conversations with the Steelers and the Cowboys because of Gil Brandt and his scouting system. He was at the forefront, him and Tex Schramm. I mean, they were at the forefront of evaluating talent out of college. He wrote the book on that.
Right.
And so I had more conversation, more letters, more phone calls with the Dallas Cowboys. So I didn't go out and buy a ZX with a star on it because I ended up with a fleur-de-lis, baby. So, but what a run you've had with New England, and you to imagine. And I don't know now if you're the only player who's been part of 11 Super Bowls with one team. Now, not as a player, obviously,
Yeah.
front office. You were part of one in '85. It didn't end well. The Bears had a great. But what's amazing to me now is '85. You're Defensive Player of the Year, Andre, and you're Defensive Player of the Year in a year where the Bears and their defense was the talk. And so I think that's amazing just by itself. You also, of course, were on the All-Decade team in the '80s, which I share that as well, which is kind of cool. But just take me through the early years. I mean, it really wasn't great until Parcells shows up, and that's when it became that building of the Patriot way. Explain to me talk to me about Parcells and what that shift meant when he came. Because isn't that basically, would you say, was the game?
Yeah, I would say that he kind of came in, and it's funny, he came in toward the end of my career, which ended up being my last year. Now, Parcells had been there earlier in the late '70s. He was a position coach before he went to the Giants. So there was a little bit of Parcells connection back in the late '70s. But he came in pretty much and set fire under everyone that it needed to be done. I mean, we had guys on the team, and when you look back at 91, 92, 93, there were guys on the team, on the squad. I literally would go in the locker room and look around, and I would just shake my head. I'm like, I can't believe I'm on the same field with these assholes. And there was nothing that you could do about it because that's what the hand that we were dealt with. But Bill basically came in and brought his brand of discipline, his ability to just grind the guys down and basically grind you down and then build you back up. And that's what he did.
Like a good military general.
Absolutely. And he was able to weed out the guys that basically you can't count on to play 60 minutes of football. That's all it was. And the guys that he could count on were the guys that he was going to build things around. He had solid coaches that came in. And that's the other piece that people tend to forget about is you got to have solid assistants that know how to coach the game of football. I mean, you can have guys out there that know how to coach schemes, and you'll probably get your butt kicked the rest of the year. But you got guys that know how to coach players up, get those guys motivated, then you got something special. And that's what Bill had. He had some great coaches. Everywhere he's been, he's always had great coaches. And he knows that's the important piece. And that's what he did. He weeded out the guys that were character issue guys that, again, like you said, guys you can't depend on in the heat of the battle. And he did that and got us back to a Super Bowl. And then he ends up leaving, and then that's when you get a little bit of Pete Carroll. Then after Pete Carroll, you got Bill Belichick, and then that's where you pick up from when Parcells was here, and then you move on to Belichick, and basically, again, Belichick being a lot like Parcells in his philosophy that we want to weed guys out that don't want to be here. We want guys that are willing to work a little harder, be willing to sacrifice a little bit more, and understand that we're never going to get anywhere unless we continue to play as a team, both offensively, defensively, and special teams wise. If we have all this, and then everything else is going to take care of itself.
And Parcells introduced Belichick to Kraft, the owner, a few years, like you said, after arriving, and the rest is history. And it's just been an amazing run, and it's evident that, to me anyway, that the Patriots They drafted smartly, and then they developed the players into buying into that, next man up, the Patriot way.
Yes.
Weren't that active in free agency, really. More about the draft, more about developing young guys and keeping those guys there for a long time. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, more if in '01 we don't win that Super Bowl, then I think all this is for naught. But the fact that we won that Super Bowl after the 2000, and guys were like, "Wait a minute, man!" So they're asking you to kind of give up a little bit of yourself, sacrifice for the team. Damn, they went and won a Super Bowl. Maybe it works. I'm gonna give it a shot. And so, because of that Super Bowl win in '01, man, that thing lit a fire. That was like, shit, I'm going to New England. And instead of me asking for that big contract, you know what? Give me the above veteran pay and I'll come to New England because I'm going to have an opportunity now to win not two, not three, but maybe 4, 5, 6 Super Bowl rings. And when you have that in front of you, guys have a tendency to change their mind. And as you know, we've had a lot of guys, not a bunch of them, but we've had a few guys that have had the success here and have gone on to have that big contract somewhere else. Not the same type of success, but the monetary value was out there for those guys based on what they had done here. So if you win, no matter where you go, if you can win and if you can show it right away, that's going to give you that opportunity to have guys buy in on your philosophy and your way of doing things.
I think maybe a good example would be Randy Moss
Absolutely.
coming to New England, going, this looks pretty good up there in Foxborough. I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And when you have an opportunity.
I would have loved for Randy to get that Super Bowl ring too, man. Him and Junior Seau. I don't think Seau got he just got the AFC Championship. I would have liked to have seen those two guys get a ring while they were here.
So I think you kind of answered my question here. What do you think has been the biggest key to this, to the Patriots' success over the past 20 years? And it kind of sounds like it's a combination of things. And obviously you have Kraft as an owner. I'd like to get your kind of opinion on Kraft as an owner. And then you have Belichick, and then you have Brady, who comes in as a scrawny kid from Michigan, not highly touted at all.
Mm.
And it had to be cool. So there's a couple of questions here for you, Andre. Talk to me about Kraft. Talk to me about what it was like to be with Brady for that long.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, in any successful corporation, we know that from our experiences of people that we work with, different opportunities as Hall of Famers going out to work for companies. It literally starts from the top. And if your CEO or president is button up, fiscally smart, willing to back away and let that person that he hired run the company and be satisfied with the results, that's the start. And that's what happened with Robert. Robert Kraft is unbelievable businessman. I have had so many conversations with him about business, about life, about family, religion. I mean, etc. We've played golf together, and it is always interesting when you listen to folks that are successful, and it comes down to a good person. He really is a good he's a savvy businessman. He's a shrewd businessman. He's a tough businessman, but he's a good person. He's a person that cherishes family. Family is important to him, and he doesn't mind sharing. And I've been a benefactor of his ability to share with others. And, you talk about being in the right place at the right time. Man, have I been in the right place at the right time for the last 20, 30 so years. And it's been awesome. But Robert is all of those things in the checkbox. Plus, um, you know, you hear people say that, but I truly see the good person, the part of him, a little bit closer than most folks. And then Brady, is a guy that I fortunately at the time was in personnel, so I got a chance to see him up close on tape, hearing what people thought about him, reading reports, different people that wrote him up, watching his sophomore year, his junior year, his senior year, and seeing some of the things that he's been able to show the last 20 years. Tough competitor, guy that you want to have the ball in his hand, all around good guy. And, Mort, you and I, again, we are fortunate to be around so many athletes: Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, all the great guys, Joe Namath. We see all our compadres from the National Football League. And you walk in that room, and all these great guys, they got that aura about them. I like to say, when I saw Michael Jordan the first time, it looked like he was floating on air. And I got a chance to talk with Tiger Woods, and I walked in, and I was giddy. I was like I'm a grown man. I'm almost at the time was 15, 20 years older than Tiger Woods. And all of a sudden, I'm all giddy and I feel like I'm on cloud nine. Well, Brady brings that same thing to the game. I talk to him and it feels like, I'm the only person in the room that he's having a conversation with. And that's something special. And on top of that, to be able to talk the talk, walk the walk with your teammates and get them to buy in on so many things says a lot about you as your leadership as a team captain. You can't beat that. And Belichick is by far one of the smartest coaches. He's someone that, as a former defensive player, I've enjoyed sitting in the back of the room listening to him break down responsibilities for everybody that's playing in the game. And I get amazement out of it. I mean, I feel like I'm ready to, how they say you hear that click clack walking down the hallway with cleats on. I feel like that whenever he's breaking down assignments and responsibilities as they get ready to gear up for the next opponent for the week. And that ability to tell each player defensively per position what his responsibility are. Here's what I need you to do. The communication like that is a lot of what's missing probably in the National Football League that we've been fortunate to have for quite a long time. And that makes up the success. Now, granted, it's a little luck, but still the hard work, the grind, putting everything into from the top to the bottom, the requests that the coaches or the head coach may want from the owner for his players, everything has been given. New stadium, new facilities, and all they do is win. And it's just, like I said, it's been so freaking cool being around here and being part of that whole organization and the wins. The wins are cool.
How different was it this year to be Brady-less? And what was the biggest difference? I know that had to, obviously it affects a franchise whether we want to admit it or not. And when a player of Tom Brady's caliber leaves a team,
Yeah.
there's a void. But what was the biggest void, if there is such a thing, created by Tom Brady's departure?
Well, it's kind of hard to kind of define all of that because of the pandemic kind of hit right at that time. So for me personally, I haven't been able to interact with our team because of the different guidelines that we set up. But just for me, observing from the outside in as a person who's just watching the game on TV, um, you miss those things that you're used to seeing from Brady, the throws, the conversation, the in your face to my players, the you know, not that I'm disappointed in you, but you should have made that catch. Those type of looks that we've gotten accustomed to seeing from him. The fact that he's not in number 12, red, white, and blue here at the stadium anymore is part of it. But you and I have been around to watch the Joe Montana San Francisco 49er breakup. And, you look back at that and you're like, wow, that's the inevitable that you never thought would happen. And, I think because of that, a lot of us were able to, observe and say, well, if they could do that to Joe Montana after all those great wins, I don't think they're going to have a hard time making the decision, making the call from our end. And, it happened. And it's just, you know what? He's done 20 years. He's given this organization a lot. And, if we don't want to give him the money, then let him have the opportunity to move on and go somewhere else and have a little success before his career is over with. He's having his success before his career is over with. And he looks like the same Tom Brady that we've gotten used to seeing here in Foxborough, that the same things that he's doing down in Tampa Bay now.
So when you're looking at the 2020 version of the Patriots, what in your mind was the biggest reason that the Patriots missed the playoffs? This
I think we're a young team. I mean, you're putting together guys that remember we got guys that opted out not to play, so we're already down ammunition wise. So all of a sudden now you got to figure out how to conserve the rest of that ammunition. I blame it on youth. I mean, guys that are and guys that are playing out of position. You got guys that are playing inside linebacker that never played inside linebacker before. We got guys that are stepping in at the safety position that never played before. So a lot of people are being moved around and asked to do certain things that they don't normally get an opportunity. But here's the positive of all that. What great experience these guys have all gotten, because they got to play. Normally, they probably wouldn't get that opportunity to get out there and do the things that they were doing. But there's nothing like having that playing time under your belt. And then next year, when everything hopefully is back to normal and we are getting our guys back, and then we got another draft coming up, and then we pick the right guys that are going to be part of the next 53-man roster. Ain't no telling what we're going to have from a playing standpoint. And that's all you want is football players, guys that can play the game. Guys that can play the game.
Yeah, and you had a great football player in Julian Edelman. Has he played his final game, you think, for the Patriots?
Depends on him and how he recovers. I think injuries and what you do on the field is the thing that determines. Yeah. And if there's somebody there that's closer and younger, I think you and I would make that decision. We're going to have to go with the younger version of what we have. We may not make everybody happy, but at some point, you make that decision.
Will Cam Newton be back in New England next season, do you think?
Um, I like to say yes. I like to think that we don't never really do what the majority rule says or how the public sees things. I think that I think it'll probably depend on him and how he works at it.
And what about Belichick? How much longer do you see him coaching?
He's a lifer. He really is. I mean, he's a guy that loves X's and O's, man. And I don't have never had that conversation with him, but I like to think that he's a guy that truly loves the game. He truly loves the challenges of the game, and it's like I think everybody will probably reevaluate where they are after this season is over with because it's just been one of those tough years. But yeah, I like to think that Bill's going to still be around for a little bit.
And I know you will be. You're a lifer too, Andre. You've had a great run with the Patriots. You have had an amazing, interesting journey, really. And it certainly has not been with the wind at your back all the time. But you've figured it out, man. You fought it. You fought the demons. You fought the the challenges that came, and you have earned the right, brother, not only to be in Canton, Ohio, but to have played the game at the highest level and to reap the benefits of that and still be connected to the game has to be very gratifying for you to still be with a franchise that you played for and now you can put your stamp on. And I'd like to finish. I know you're the community relations director for the Pats, and you guys have really done a fantastic job of connecting the team and the players to the fans and to the community. Talk to me about some of the things that you personally have worked on and spearheaded, and some of your players have really stepped up in a big way and come to the forefront, especially social injustice issues that we're facing and so forth. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. Well, that's the other piece of the being involved with the Kraft family, man. I mean, that was their number two thing after buying the team and setting the infrastructure in place here at the organization was to establish the foundation back in '94. And I mean, you talk about talk the talk and walk the walk. These guys have been putting their mouth with their money for a very long time, for a long time. And that's been the cool part because I've been able to be part of that. Um, I have watched us go from a two man show to we're now eight deep in our foundation and CR department, and everybody contributes their thoughts, their well wishes toward anything and everything. And we don't lay our hat under one particular uh, outreach that's out there, initiative that's out there. We have been of late really heavily involved in the military, um, providing for families because there are so many people out there that people don't have a clue about that have gone without and had to sacrifice for a lot of things. And I think the second most important piece, and you mentioned it, was social justice. The fact that 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, if we'd have let the players do this, or if our players were talking about these things from a social justice standpoint, we would have probably figured out ways to get those guys out of the league or fine them. And I think the league, I think the ownership, everywhere around the National Football League realizes the importance of social justice and letting the players get involved and do their part to make a difference in the communities that they work in as players and also some of the communities that these players have grown up at, being able to go back there and get involved. I know our guys have touched a lot of lives here in the New England area. It's amazing the information that's out there and the stories that are being told and the stories that are still being told from a social justice standpoint. So, I like to say that Robert helped play a major part in communicating with, I believe, other owners and the commissioner, and the importance of, hey, we can't handcuff our guys. If there are issues and things that are important to these guys, we got to support them 100%. And it's been cool, man. It really has been an amazing journey. To put a smile on a person's face, to uplift someone that's down, and to know that feeling, man. That's you're talking about having personal psychic income. There's no substitute for the type of income that you receive from reaching out and helping those that can't help themselves.
I can't think of a better guy, Andre, than you of being that person that connects the current generation with an understanding and an appreciation for the past, and the legacy that you have been a part of, and then now to be a part of something that's legacy stuff. I mean, it really is. That will be forever, kind of there. And it's so. Congratulations, and my friend, I hope to see you soon. It's been an honor to speak to you here the last hour or so, and I hope we get to do it again face to face soon.
Mort, thank you, man. I really appreciate the kind words, and say hello to your beautiful wife, man. Tell her that we love her. We send our love from New England, and I think you got a very nice thing going on here. Keep up the good work with you doing with your podcast. I really enjoy it.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Andre. See you.
Take care.